Good evening, saints of God. Thank you again for tuning in to hear what thus saith the Lord. Tonight, the word, how can I put this? It's a little, not unusual, just a word that you really need to consider and think about. I asked God to give me a word. I waited all day. I got up this morning and I said, God, I don't have a word for your people tonight. And I never make up a word. Everything I say, I make sure that I've heard from God before I give it. And before I left home to go and worship, God gave me a topic and He gave me a word, and I found that it was a word that I won't say it threw me or stung me, but it was kind of unusual thing for God to say. And this was the word He said. He said, talk about and ask my people, why is it so hard for my people to obey me? I thought, oh God. He said, ask them, why is it so hard for my people to obey me? Why is it that when I speak my will in their hearing, I see moaning and groaning and murmuring, complaining in their heart? Why is it when I give them my mandates, the things that's going to help them function in the earth realm according to what I would like for my will to be, I get met with resistance? Ask them why it is that they ask me what my will is, and when I tell them, they treat it as though it doesn't really matter whether they follow my will or not. Why is it so hard for the people who are called by His name to obey Him? I came, and I know some of why. He told me. The first thing He said was He reminded me how in His word He spoke and said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. We've taught this before. That word keep in the original language means to uphold the integrity of. And what He was letting me know was we find it hard to obey Him because we don't uphold the integrity of His word. We're not really sure how to do it. We treat His word as though our perspective of it is the correct perspective. We don't ask Him as much as we tell Him. God made me to understand that His will, His way, His principles were already established by Him before He even formed and shaped and created earth. So He's not going around here trying to recreate or reestablish His will. It's already done. All we have to do is follow the principles, follow the patterns, obey His will. But we have difficulty with that. We don't know how to uphold the integrity of God's word. We know how to collect. We talked last week about collecting information and how to convert that information into wisdom. We know how to collect the information. We know how to go where the information is. We know how to listen to the information. We even know how to respond to it and enjoy it as it's being said. But when it actually comes to standing on it in a way that's going to uphold the integrity of it, standing it on the way that is going to prove that this word has power, that this word is truth, we falter. We falter. And He said, that's how you prove you love me. You uphold the integrity of what I say. You preserve that integrity. You prove that what I say is true. You show that what I say is right. That's how you uphold. You honor, you respect it. You cannot uphold something that you don't respect. And if you don't respect the word, I don't care how much you dance over it, I don't know how much you hear it makes you speak in tongues. If you're not walking it out, you're not respecting it. You would be well not to know. Because now you're going to be held responsible for what you know. And if everything God says make you moan and cry, everything God says you meet it with resistance, then you're not upholding the integrity of his word. And you don't love. Woo, that's a hard thing to say, preacher. I'm just repeating what the word says. I found myself this week in a situation where I was presented with a proposal, a business proposal. And it was something I want real bad. The results of it anyway. And even though I left that meeting feeling very good, feeling very secure, feeling very proud, my spirit said, aren't you going to ask God? Because that's how we do. When it feels good to us, we don't think about the integrity of God's word. I found myself having to deal with my own spirit. And I found myself having to stand on the word. And the first thing I said to God, God, you got to show me what to do. I'm seeking you first. I can't accept this based on its face value. I don't know what its merit is. It sounds good. It may be an opportunity. It is something I want, but I've got to seek your face first. That's what he told us to do. But how many times do things come up and because it seems right to us or it feels good to us, we go off half-cocked and do it only to find out what we thought was an opportunity was really in opposition. We don't know how to uphold the integrity of God's word. The next thing God says is kind of likened unto it. But he says, whether we want to admit it or not, we're more carnally minded than we are in the spirit. When you get ready to make decisions, where do you go? Do you go and figure out what's going to work for you and what's going to feel good for you? Or do you truly ask God, God, tell me what to do? Now beware. Don't ask God and then get on your knees with your mind made up. You already know what you want to do and you just want God to sign off on it. Don't do that. Truly ask God. God, is this my flesh? Like I said, this certain proposal is something I want to do. But I've got to make sure that it's okay with God. Some things, God is just as practical as he is spiritual. Everything doesn't have to be rocket science. Everything doesn't have to be drenched in tongues. Everything doesn't have to slay us in the spirit. Some things, let's just act God and let's be practical about the decisions that we make. We can't do that being carnal minded. Every decision is going to come from flesh. We're going to do what feels good. How many times have we done things because we thought God was saying yes because that's what we wanted to hear, only to find out that wasn't God at all? It's time to stop moaning and crying and hemming and hawing every time God issues a mandate. Every time God says something, we love to listen to his word and go, oh, God, I ain't there. Oh, you're killing me. That was one of the things I used to love to say. God, you're killing me. And one day he made me to know, I know I'm killing you. That's my intention. I must kill your flesh so your spirit can thrive. Because there are things when I'm finding out, the more my flesh dies and the more spiritually mature I come, the one thing I find out is that a lot of things that I thought was so important become foolishness to me. That God's will is not distasteful to me. I want to do his will. I want to obey him. He doesn't speak things that are too hard. Does he tell me things that challenges me? Of course he does. Does he tell me things that if there was another way, I'd want to do it another way? I'm sure. But nevertheless, I've matured to a point where I want to say, God, let your will be done. Am I perfect at it? No. But he's still working on me. I want you to do something this week in my closing. I'm going to issue you a challenge. For the next 7 days, before you lay down to slumber and sleep at night, I want you to ask God, God, this day, have I been more carnal than spiritual? How many times today did I lean to my own understanding rather than talk to you? How many times today, God, did I react in my flesh rather than consult the Spirit of God that dwells within me? You may be surprised to know that you have acted more carnal than spiritual. And you may be surprised to know that your thinking that you are obeying God has not been obedience, but resistance. Something to think about. Why have we been disobeying God? We go to church. We say we believe him. We confess that we love him. And I think in the best of our ability, somewhat we do. But we still love ourselves more. Saints of God, God's will is not drudgery. He doesn't want us to dread everything he says. He doesn't want us to see everything he says as a trial that we can barely get through. He wants us to enjoy and embrace his will. He wants us to love him so much that regardless of what he says do and what he tells us to deny and what he tells us to turn our back on, we do it with joy. That takes growth. That takes growth. So I challenge you this week, saints of God. Let's grow to a place where when God speaks to us, then he's a sovereign God. When he speaks to us, let's learn to respect what he says. Let's learn to respect the fact that he's all-knowing and that he knows what he's doing. He always has, and he always will. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.